I feel like I know that people are really worried about looking foolish. They're worried about looking vulnerable, or just in general that people will make fun of them if they just come right out and say what they think or what they feel. So, in the interest of trying to, let me square this up a little bit here, get old Tejas in there. But in the interest of trying to be as open as possible, let's talk about field med. Let's just jump right into it. Field med was hard for me. A lot of people out there, some of you hard chargers, I know you guys just breeze right through field med. It wasn't a big deal. It was tough for me. So, after 2 years at Balboa, I stayed in pretty good shape. I didn't, working in a hospital, you can definitely get kind of lackadaisy, kind of hefty, I actually, stayed in pretty good shape. I stayed on top of my cardio. So I felt like I was pretty prepared, or as prepared as I could be, for field med. Now, for those of you who don't know, field med for corpsmen is when you go either on the East Coast or the West Coast. I went to the West Coast. I went to Camp Pendleton, and it's where you learn basically how to be a corpsman for the Marines, or for the Fleet Marine Force, FMF. I'm not FMF, so just want to throw that out there. I'm not FMF certified, but I did go to field med. I really could have used a helping hand in field med leading up to this, so I will throw a couple of tips and tricks out there. I'm not really trying to give you guys a guide on what to do or how to pass field med. It really is just sort of a dogfight. I mean, you're going to learn the skills you need to get through field med, but just like I've said in my previous videos, if you show up with a good attitude, with sort of an open, I'm going to get this done by any means necessary, you're going to pass field med. It might not be pretty. It certainly wasn't pretty for me, but if you show up with that attitude, you're definitely gonna make it through. Those of us who've been in the fleet know that there's that one FMF corpsman who's like, how did you make it through? How did you become FMF? So there are those types out there. But anyway, 2 years of Balboa, let me tell you something. 2 years flies by like that. It's like nothing. 2 years, it just goes right by. It'll really shock you how fast it goes. So my next command, I was up for orders. I ended up getting China Lake, which we'll talk about next. But I ended up getting stationed at China Lake, but first I had to go to field med, which I don't understand, because China Lake was a blue side clinic in the middle of nowhere. So I don't understand why I had to go to field med for that. My detailer sort of made it sound like, oh, you might need it down the road, which I haven't really used any of my skills in field med up to this point, but I digress. So field med, was easy for me to get to because I was able to drive basically from San Diego just up to Camp Pendleton, and got to stay in the barracks. I was still GO batch, so I got to stay in the barracks, which was really handy. The barracks might not be the best situation, but it is very, very handy, especially if you're not going to be there for very long. I think field med is like 12 weeks. It's really handy if you're not going to be at a command for very long. Even a year in the barracks is not that tough, because again, you have everything right there. Your bed, your locker, everything. It's all right there. And, when you have to get to where you have to go, it's not going to be that far. You don't have to drive on base, off base, get gas. It's actually very, very handy. So the barracks might not be the most glamorous place to stay, but it is very, very handy. So that I don't mind. Anyway, check into field med. And I should have known I was going to have a tough time right away, because I got zero advice about field med. I asked around some of the FMF guys. I said, "Hey, what's field med like?" And all they said was, "Oh, it's easy. I'm like, okay, well, what do you have to do? What's the deal? And people around me just said, oh, there's a couple of hikes and you learn a couple of things, and yeah, they're going to yell at you a little bit. It's like any other training, I mean, I've only been in the Navy for about 2.5 years at this point, and the last 2 years were spent at a hospital, basically just, doing clinical admin stuff, I mean, seeing patients, but not in, the military, as it were. I'm not getting yelled at and made to do push-ups and whatnot, like boot camp style. So, get to field med. I check in in my NSUs, in my service uniform, because the person who told me, who I was talking to, said, I asked them, hey, do I have to show up in my dress uniform? They said, nah, you don't have to show up in your dress. Just show up in whatever, as long as it's a uniform. I'm like, really? I said, okay. This is my first time going from command to command, so I don't really know. So I check in my service uniform, and you're not really supposed to do that. I mean, nobody's really gonna, unless it's like, you just happen to get that person on duty to stamp your orders who's really, really a stickler for the rules. I mean, you're not really going to get fussed at that much, but it's definitely recommended that you show up in dress uniform, But I showed up in my NSUs. Fortunately, the person there to check me in wasn't a demon about it, so that wasn't a big deal. But just getting started right away, Field Med was a cast of characters, let me tell you. On the green side, on the blue side. So first of all, we have Marine and Naval instructors. So you get a little bit of both. And it's kind of funny because the Navy guys tend to try to be a little more hardcore than the Marines. I don't know if that's just kind of an honor thing that they have amongst themselves, but it seems like the Navy guys were always trying to outdo the Marines in that sort of who can be the most hardcore. But it was definitely a cast of characters, let me tell you. On the student side, I mean, we had everybody from, guys from Russia, guys, I think we had one guy, actually I do know we had one guy, he was an IDC. If you don't know, that's an independent duty corpsman, basically the Navy SEAL of hospital corpsmen, basically a guy who you can send out there with a unit, a platoon, and he basically knows how to do everything. Just a really, really eclectic bunch. And on the instructor side, there was just, I mean, man, they were just very, very interesting folks. You had, the guy who loves to run. You had the shit talking second classes. I don't know why. It seems like second class is really where I have the most trouble with people in general. It's funny because I'm a second class right now, and it's one or the other. They're either like really cool and laid back and they just want to teach and they want to be the best leader possible, or people hit second class and they just turn into assholes. I don't know why. That seems to be the rank where people kind of have that shift. But it was good on both sides. We had a couple of higher ups, a couple of E6s, and we had a chief, and I should have known right from the start because it's like the weekend before we class up, and I'm in the barracks and I'm sitting in this lounge with a TV, and I think there was a pool table, but it's this nice little lounge, and I'm just kind of sitting in there, and there's this guy sitting in or standing in the doorway, and I forget how we struck up this conversation, but the guy's in civilian clothes, I'm in civilian clothes, and I was just going to sit down, and somehow we strike up a conversation. I think he was just saying that how big I was or something like that, and this guy, I think I called him sir. I think he let me know he was one of the instructors, and I said, "Oh, okay, sir. Well, good to meet you," because I don't know what his rank is. He's in civilian clothes, and when I called him sir, he says, "Hey, it's chief." I'm like, "Oh yeah," because I could tell that you're a chief, by your, cargo shorts and your, Lacoste tank top or your Lacoste polo. So right off the bat, I knew, oh boy, this is gonna be a show. So, the first week, The first week at any real training command, you're not going to get into the meat and potatoes. But that first week, I remember thinking to myself, okay, maybe it won't be so bad. And that first week, all we really had was, a uniform issue. We got our books, we got our racks, some of the standards were kind of made known to us, like, here's where you muster, here's where you line up, here's where chow is. So we're just kind of going through the motions, but it's the first week, so we're not really, really getting down and dirty just yet. But eventually it all pops off. And learning from the Marines it's both. It's good because it's they have a way of explaining things. At least this is what I took from it. They have a way of explaining things that makes it real. They'll explain what the book says, but then they'll turn around and say, yeah, but in this situation, you want to make sure you do this, and always with a healthy amount of swearing and because there's on the West Coast, there's no females. There's no females in class, so just use your imagination and understand what that means. But man, I butted heads with a couple of people. Let me see here. Not so much with the students. There's maybe one student that I just kind of didn't mesh with, but you're up under these people. Everybody's in the barracks. You're lined up. You're shoulder to shoulder. You're at chow together. You're smushed into these classrooms. So if you don't get along with somebody, you better figure it out, because you're going to be together for 12 weeks and you're going to be smashed in together. And when you're on hikes, you're going to be basically living together. So yeah, you'd better understand that if you can't work with these people, if you don't like these people, you better learn to live with them, because that's pretty much what's going to happen if you do get assigned to a unit and you are FMF. You're going to be basically living with these people. It's almost like a marriage. At least that's what I took from it. So instructors, there was a Navy instructor who was just, I don't want to put names out there, but I'm trying to filter myself, but he was the mouthpiece, he was the one. There always seems to be one. Even in boot camp, there was always a mouthpiece. There's always one guy that's just like a little cocker spaniel, just always running his mouth, So that first PT session, it's been about 2 weeks now, and we're all kind of thinking to ourselves like, oh, well, I was thinking there was going to be more PT than this. Yeah, that's what I thought. Somebody told me that there wasn't a whole lot of PT in field med. I guess they were right. Yeah, well, we had a decent amount of PT. So we're outside, and they didn't even give us any warning. We're still in our MARPATs, our uniforms, and just all of a sudden, here we go, we're doing push-ups, we're doing flutter kicks, and we're running, and the mouthpiece comes out and just starts out with, did you think this was gonna be easy? Did you think you were just gonna walk in here and just steamroll all over my friggin' program? I don't think so. And just blah, 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 blah. For the next 12 weeks, this guy did not shut the hell up. So if I ever see him again, I'm probably going to kick his ass. Nah, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to kick his ass. But there are a couple of people whose asses I probably would kick. But I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know. I was in good shape. I don't know if I think I got sick, When I look back on it, I think I had like walking pneumonia, because there was a couple of hikes back then. It was cold, super, super cold. And I don't know if I got pneumonia or bronchitis or something, but I was having trouble taking full breaths for like the last half of field med. It was tough for me. I'm not going to sit here and BS you. It was tough. That first hike, I almost got hypothermia. It started raining, and oh man, it was rugged, man. I still got a couple of buddies out there who make fun of me about that. That's just what happens when you're in a platoon and when you're in that kind of environment. Guys are going to make fun of you, I'm surprised I didn't get a nickname from that, like Mr. Freeze or something. I don't know. But that was the mouthpiece. Then we had a Marine instructor that I definitely butted heads with. What should I call him? I'm gonna call him Teeth, because he had these super long teeth and his mouth was always open. He was the mouthpiece on the Marine side. Just blah 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 blah, always talking trash. And oh man, I tried to stay out of his way for the most part, but man, we almost came to blows one time. I'll tell you the story. We were doing the Litter O course. Now, if you've never had a gas mask on, man, I don't know, man. I had a gas mask on one time before that, and it was in boot camp when we did the gas chamber. And I remember thinking, because the gas chamber was the one thing in boot camp that I was really, really worried about, because I'd heard some horror stories about it. Wasn't that bad. I got through it pretty easily. So, but we're having to do everything in this gas mask. We're having to run and PT in this gas mask, and it's so tough, man. It's so tough to take a full breath. I don't know if that's just part of it or what, but I wish, if there was one thing that I wish someone would have let me know about field med ahead of time, it's definitely about that gas mask and how to deal with it, because it's really tough, or at least it was tough on me. I don't know about you guys, maybe you hard chargers out there got it figured out, but I sure didn't. It was tough for me. So anyway, we're doing this obstacle course with a litter, because remember, we're corpsmen, so we're basically pretending that we have a wounded patient on a litter, on a stretcher, and we're having to evacuate this guy through an obstacle course. So there's about 6 of us, and we've got rifles, and we've got this stretcher that we're trying to maneuver through these obstacles. And I'd already gone through it once, and I thought that, okay, I got through it, barely got through it, but that's it. It's over now. So I get on the other side, and I'm just like relieved that it's over. Now we want to do a competition. There's 3 platoons. So everyone's saying, okay, everybody get 6 guys from your platoon, your 6 best guys, and we're going to do it for time now. So we're going to do it for time. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. Screw that. So, but at the same time, nobody's rogering up. We have like 4 people, and nobody's going to pony up and say, okay, yeah, I'll do it again. Because who wants to do that again? Hell no, man. That thing freaking sucked. So nobody wants to do it. So I finally say, hey, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because I want to prove to myself that I can do it. I'm trying to be a team player, a hard charger. So I rogered up. I said, okay, let's do it. And I had this great technique built up in my head. If you got 2 guys holding that stretcher, it's not that heavy. So what I thought is like, hey, let's put the stretcher up on our shoulders and we can just run through it instead of having it down by your hips where you kind of have to waddle through it. So I said, yeah, let's do that. Turned out to be a horrible idea. And I'm trying to run in this gas mask, and it's just not happening. I'm having to pop the seal so I can take a breath. And Teeth is just screaming at me like, stop breaking the seal on that friggin' gas mask. So, but I can't breathe, man. I'm telling you, I don't know if I'm claustrophobic or if I've just got some issue with something being pressed up against my face. I don't know. But this obstacle course definitely exposed all my weaknesses. I can't run in this thing. I'm just panicking, and I'm taking these breaths, and I'm having to pop the seal under my mask so I can breathe, and I just can't do it. So I have to put the litter down. I had to tag out with somebody. So now all I'm doing is just basically trying to hold up my own body weight and hold up my rifle. It's just getting bad, but we're finally at the end, and I'm sitting there, and I'm the person in front, so I'm basically just setting security, just holding my rifle up, and Teeth is standing right there, breathing down my neck, and I pop my seal again and take a breath. I tried to do it discreetly, but he's looking right at me, so he could see me. So he sees it again. He starts screaming, "Have you popped that freaking mask again? I'm gonna dock you guys 30 seconds or whatever, you know. So he's screaming at me, and I'm just sitting there just trying to hold it together. There's like one more obstacle to go. There's like one more wall to just get over, and we're done. But I can't hold on. So I pop that seal again. I take a breath, and Teeth just freaks the hell out. That's it. You guys are disqualified. Second platoon is friggin' disqualified. All you sons of bitches. Blah, blah, blah. And he just starts screaming. So I don't know if I've ever been this pissed off before, and I've been pretty pissed off. So I just take the gas mask off, and I slam it on the ground. I take my Kevlar, I slam it on the ground, my rifle, my backpack, and I'm just like, and I just start screaming, everything. I'm just like screaming at him, and I take like 3 steps toward him, and I'm like, I wasn't going to fight him. I was just going to kind of go after him. I was like, just going to get in his face a little bit. And man, when I tell you the floodgates came in, man, everybody got between us. Everybody was like, whoa, Jonesy, chill out, man, chill out, And Teeth is like, let's go. You want a piece of me? Let's go. So it was just a show, man. Good God. That was probably the hardest day in field med, besides the very last field hike. We had 3 field hikes, a 4 mile, a 6 mile, and an 8 mile. And that 8 mile hike, like I told you, I had I don't know if I had bronchitis or walking pneumonia or something, but it was so tough. But the night before, I can't breathe, so I go in, and I'm like, yo, HM1, you got to do something for me, man. I can't take a full breath, and it's killing me right now. It's like, oh, well, we don't really have anything for you. I don't know what to tell you. I'm like, you don't know what to tell me? I'm about to walk 8 miles with a full pack tomorrow, and you're telling me you can't do anything for me? What the hell? I mean, it's not like the hike was timed. All you have to do is basically finish it, and you're good, So I said, I got probably the greatest piece of advice in field med from the commanding officer, who actually ended up being my commanding officer in Guam. We'll get to that in another video. But he said, you know what? This course sucks. It's difficult. It's tough. But the quickest way out of here is through. And I still use that piece of advice today for my son, for myself. I tell, hey, listen, if you're in a tough situation that you gotta complete, the quickest way to get out of there is just to do it and do a good job. So that's what I did, but I made it through. It was definitely tough, but there was a lot of fun in field med too, man. We went to the range, we shot the M4s. Learning how to do tourniquets was a lot of fun. That's a skill that, you can always use at some point. I hope you never have to, but, it's a skill. But it was fun because we had this evolution where we're in this building, and we're doing it like SWAT team style. We're all lined up, and we're like, kick the door in, and we run inside, and they're playing stereos with gunshots and bombs going off, and then you're supposed to run in and find your patient and slap the tourniquet on them, and you got 60 seconds to get it done. There's a lot of fun times in field med too, man. There's a lot. There was a couple of people in there that I remember that were I definitely made friends with. There's a buddy of mine that's actually stationed with me right now that I met in field med, and he's a character. So you definitely make those bonds with people. You get to know them. And, I mean, would I go back? Absolutely not. But the good thing about field med is I had gone from San Diego to field med. So for that 12 weeks I was there, because I was Geo Bachelor, I was still getting BAH, and I wasn't have to pay any rent. So, hey, it was a good Christmas that year, put it like that. So field med, good grief, man, it was wild. Some funny things that happened. You always have that day where you're around these instructors enough, and you end up with people who do impressions of other people. So we had that day where people came in. I forget who I did impressions of. I always do impressions of somebody, but the person who definitely won the impressions contest, it was an all male, training class, but there was a female PS. Don't ask me what PS stands for. I have no idea, but they're kind of like the admin side of the house. There was a female PS who was there. She was like a PS2, and she just pretty black lady, but she just, you could tell she was one of those people that took herself really, really seriously, which is funny to me because she was like a shit talker, but she wasn't part of the training. She wasn't part of the training class. She wasn't an instructor. She was just there to basically do paperwork. So I don't know why she felt like she had to be this Billy Badass and stuff. But anyway, she was always talking trash. So somebody, we're in this circle. We're outside in the bleachers on the grinder, and we just start doing impressions of people. I don't know. There was a lot of times where things just kind of hanged. I don't know, but there wasn't anything to do, so we just kind of sat around, I mean, it's either this or we go back to the barracks and just whatever, so we're sitting around doing impressions of the instructors, and it's just funny. And this guy comes out and he does an impression of that lady. He puts his hands on his hips and he goes, "Gentlemen, I don't understand why y'all can't wash your daggone hands. Y'all are nasty." And the entire class just erupted in laughter. It was just great. Little moments like that is what really makes it. And I have way more fond memories of good stuff happening than the bad. So that was field med for me. Field med, it was tough. I would definitely not go back again. But if I had to, I would definitely make sure I was in great shape, ready to run, ready to, have the pack on, But like I say, if you go in with a good attitude, ready to learn, just accept the process. You're any training evolution, you're going to have some days that are just shit. Some days are just going to suck. And that's okay, because you're in there with your buddies, hopefully, and you guys can embrace the suck together, because that's what it's all about. That's what the military does. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Check me out on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and I will see you guys real soon for more Big Jones Unleashed.